everyone. In fact, why don't we have a show of hands? Is anybody in Kabbalah in action in that course? If you can just lift up your hand. There you go. All right, Paul. And if you're not showing your camera, we also invite you to broadcast, if possible, if you can. Okay.
Yeah, it's certainly a help to us when we can see you and feel you.
Great. Anybody in Kabbalah experience? Show of hands. Yep. How are you doing? Hey, Benjamin. Got a bit of a delay here. And finally, we also have friends from the graduate environment, I believe. So if you're in the graduate environment, put up your hand. How you doing? Awesome. How you doing, Lou? Okay, friends. Yeah, we have quite a few from the graduate environment. It's really great to meet everyone. So basically, the invitation for tonight was for Q&A for Kabbalah in Action. But to be honest with you, we're building a really incredible community here of friends. So we have friends from all different courses and different stages in their studies. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing the usual overview that we normally do of the course, so Kabbalah in Action, Kabbalah experience. Different. We're going to be talking about something very exciting, something that has to do with accelerating your spiritual development, something called a Congress, a Kabbalah Congress. And what's going to happen in this Congress, it's happening here in North America, why it's important and why it's worthwhile for you to connect to it either virtually or to come physically. You're being invited. In fact, that part of tonight's lecture may even be more important than the Q&A. Okay, so please stay with us until the end, if possible. So the session is going to last for about an hour and a half. All in all, we respect your time, so we're going to try and keep it concise to an hour and a half. And I want to make a big shout out to anybody who's connecting from Europe, because it is super early over there, or super late, and you guys are just awesome to have you with us. Thank you so much. You wanna say anything?
Take it away.
Got it. Okay, so I've been doing this for a while. We've been doing these meetings for a while, and they're very warm. They're very relaxed. As you can see, we're just having a chat, and we are going to be answering your questions. One of the things, please, is that if you have like 2 or 3 questions, then pick the best one, because I know that you want to get your questions out, but there's quite a few folks that are on here. We're 47 at the moment, so we want to give everyone a chance. Okay, so the purpose of Kabbalah in Action and Kabbalah Experience was to really take all the confusion, all the clutter, all the complexity that surrounds Kabbalah, the language, all the different subjects and all the things that can really confuse the person, that can really sort of sidetrack a person, and really focus them on what you need to do to advance. So this is the question that everyone wants to know. Okay, I get it. I like the principles. I love Kabbalah and the theory, but what do I do? What do I do now? And why do I do it? Okay, so that was the whole purpose. We also wanted to put a context around the study. So we had a couple of lessons. One is called the AMP and one is called the Lab. And these lessons really kind of made it simple to understand why we're doing the things that we're doing and how these things that we're doing will aid us and allow us to begin to advance on this path. So it's a very short course, but it's really packed with a lot of stuff. And we also didn't want to lose the beauty of it, all the subtleties that Kabbalah has. It's complex, it's a complex course, but it's also straight to the point without losing any time. We live in a generation where everyone wants to learn things quickly. We don't have time to be taking long, drawn-out courses of an hour and a half. Everyone learns through YouTube, the on-demand learning, the bite-sized videos. Everything is very concentrated. I think from the feedback that we're getting from you, this is what we've managed to do. So what we did in Kabbalah in Action was to start off by taking you all the way back to the beginning of the method. We spoke about Abraham. We spoke that Kabbalah was developed as a reaction, if you like, to a crisis that was sort of set upon humanity or the inhabitants of Babylon by nature itself. And Abraham understood that we had to connect above this growing ego. So that was the first lesson. Now, what that lesson does is it tells us very clearly that Kabbalah is something very practical. It was something that was very, very current during those times, very practical for its time. And Kabbalah has always been practical. It's always been very much something that we can use for ourselves. Now, the fact that it was hidden and then it was revealed and then it was hidden again and revealed, all these things, we can talk a little bit about that. But the interesting thing is that Kabbalah once again is being sort of brought to the fore of our perception. It's beginning to attract attention again, and more people are beginning to come to Kabbalah and ask, what is this thing? What is Kabbalah? I feel I need to answer a question, the question of life. I feel an emptiness, that there's crisis around us, and I'm looking for the truth. And Kabbalah is beginning to kind of emerge from obscurity, and you guys are basically part of that generation that's really coming into this, and you're the early adopters of this method that brings humanity to unity. We also study in Kabbalah in Action about our nature, about our egoistic nature, understanding the ego and how we need to work with the ego and not let the ego work with us, like use us, right? And finally, the last two segments, which are the lab and the amplifier. Now, as you probably gathered, the lab basically teaches us the different components that we need to study Kabbalah and to advance in Kabbalah. We broke it down for you, then we put it back together, and we taught you how everything works together and how if you take one piece out, then nothing works. So you need everything. You need the support of the environment, you need the books, you need the Rav, you need all that stuff. And also, what happens when you have all those components and they work? What happens then? We attract light. We attract light. Light is the force of evolution. Okay, we are evolved. We are evolving creatures. Still today, we're evolving. People think that we've stopped. We have not stopped evolving. But the question is, how do we want to evolve? Do we want to evolve thanks to nature pushing us from behind, thanks to our ego, thanks to disillusion, pain, crisis, war, suffering, all those things? Do we want to advance, or do we want to advance through a conscious spiritual practice? And that's what Kabbalah is offering us and humanity. In the amplifier, we simply let you understand how Kabbalah amplifies or attracts the light that reform. What type of actions, like for example, the prayer. What is a prayer? And how the right prayer and how the right desire with the right intention, those things will differentiate you from a regular person, of humanity. So this is what the Kabbalists did. This is their practice. They were specialists in attracting light. They were specialists in advancing faster than the nature, faster than the regular rate of evolution. So this is what we wanted to bring to you. This is what we do. And that took us on to, or is going to be taking us on to, the Kabbalah experience, where literally you are now doing the same work as thousands and thousands of other people that are studying Kabbalah around the world, meaning workshops and this work of prayer, the work of the prayer of many, studying and looking into all the different activities that we do, Yeshivat Chaverim and congresses, which is what we're going to be talking about a little bit later. So the next course, if you're in Kabbalah in Action, is really just the doing part. So by that, once you've learned the why and the what, you're actually going to do it. Okay. So essentially, we've stripped these courses of anything unnecessary, and we're giving you the pure essence, just the meat. We've really piled it on, and all the all the answers are in there. Maybe not in full, but at least we're giving you just enough information that you need so you can move on to the next step. That was essentially it. You may have by now realized that Kabbalah it's not something that you do individually. It's a team sport, I call it. We work together. We move outward. We move towards connection outside of ourselves. And through this external inclination towards others, towards connection, we end up getting feelings of attraction, feelings of rejection, feelings of love, feelings of rejection, and I don't know, certain challenges that we feel, and that's an internal feeling. But the work is always outward. We're not going inside as if we were meditators or if we were doing something like introverted. Our direction is outward towards connection, but in this we're looking for feelings of connection, feelings of warmth, feelings of being above our ego, and feelings of our ego too, right? We also begin to reveal what is the ego, who is the ego, how it controls me, and how it uses me, and how I'm trapped by it. Because by that we can also understand the other side of the coin. So these two things go side by side. So it is something that we practice together, and the study of Kabbalah is the preparation for the feeling, the preparation for the actual the doing. So if you've been studying in Kabbalah in Action and all the courses that Tony was teaching with all the principles of Kabbalah, then that is also part of your practice. Don't just think it's something, something intellectual, very nice, I'm going to put it on the shelf. No, you're being prepared to participate in the community, in the connection, to build something greater than yourself. Okay? So we had a great event last week. We had a workshop with the friends. We built an incredible connection, many new friends. They were very surprised. With strangers, they were just practicing connection with strangers. We were in the common prayer. We were with the intention, and I think it surprised a lot how quickly we were able to build that sensation. And this is what we want, friends. We want your heart, we want your desire and your intention together, so that we build this together. Okay, so I'm not going to talk much more than that. I think that's probably it for now. We're going to be moving on to questions. Mm-hmm. Now the questions, Tony and I, we're just gonna see,
guys, I want to apologize for our connection. We have technical difficulties here, and we're working off a single laptop on Wi-Fi, and we apologize for the shaky connection. We will try to talk in packets so that it gets to you. We'll do our best.
Okay, great. So the options for asking questions: you can write the question in the chat, right?
Okay.
Or you can raise your hand. Okay, there's a button where you can raise your hand. If you want to ask a question.
I know there was a question from Jeff. Jeff, did you want to ask your question? You typed it into the chat. Okay, so I will ask Jeff's question to start us off. So Jeff asked, do we really choose to evolve? Do we really choose to evolve?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's a complicated question, because the part of our change in perception of reality orbits around that question. Yes, we do choose to evolve, but we do it with the help of the entire system. And there are certain things that we do, that is interactions that we do towards others and in our desire for the right thing that aligns us with where nature wants to take us in the first place. But this is a choice, because we can drag our feet. We cannot take those those actions. We can continually fall back or delay and just go according to being pushed, or we can choose to act in such a way that we agree and that we speeding up the process and getting ahead of it. So yes, we're managed, but we're managed in a beautiful and loving way that allows us to make a choice.
Thank you so much. Next question.
Okay, Benjamin, you said that you had a question. Would you like to go ahead and ask it live?
Yep.
Go ahead, Benjamin.
Okay. In the book From Chaos to Harmony, I was just looking over Baal HaSulam. I was just wondering, why did the Creator place such guards against Baal HaSulam in 1933? Like, what's going on here? Because it's actually pretty important that Israel unites, and it seems that there's a problem here about uniting Israel here, and I would like to know why the Creator is stopping Israel from uniting.
Because the generation wasn't ready. Because there wasn't it hadn't reached that sort of quanta of development in the human spirit. It was close. It was very close. But first there were things that had to be set up physically. It's like you have to plant the seed first for this last stage in humanity. And then it could grow. We're the ones now, and this generation is the generation capable of responding to what Baal HaSulam was saying. First, there was foundational work that had to happen. There had to be a kind of a physical sort of proof to humanity, a kind of ingathering, and then the spirit was, you could say in Israel, but it's actually the sort of core of our desire called Yasher El, this desire for the Creator, had to happen first in a physical example that allowed us to begin to feel, and then we could build internally. So we're actually the ones who are benefiting. It was shut down so that it would go to the right place.
Okay, so given that the convention in May, I told Yuri I might not be able to go because my work, like I'm a conductor on the CPR. I might have to take a train in about a half an hour. I'm just at the bunkhouse, but hopefully I can make that convention, and I was hoping to see more progress in uniting of this Partsuf, and I hope that people can start uniting more. That's all.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. That's great. That's a great book as well. So
yeah, it is a good book.
thank you so much. Thank you, friend.
All right, and the next question is from Jani. Jani, go ahead. Jani, you're unmuted. Jani, did you want to ask your question? Am I saying the name correctly? All right, while we're waiting for Jani, let's go to Martha.
Hi, good evening. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you, Martha. Thank you.
Okay. The question I wanted to ask was, seeing that the Kabbalah writings have been adapted to our times, tell me, is it the same? And I asked this question in the forum. If Abraham was to sit down in one of our classes, or even right now, what do you think would be his reaction to, to what is being taught?
Well, obviously, I'm only speculating, but I've been studying for a while. Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Do you think that our world can be changed through laws or armies? Do you think our world can be changed through having more weapons, or more policemen, or more lawyers, or more organizations, more non-profit organizations? It's interesting because when a person starts to feel that they are part of a greater thing, something greater than their little selves, they start to feel empathy, love, connection, and identify themselves with a system that is greater than the little body, then this naturally causes a revolution in the mind, in the sense of self. Abraham was trying to tell the Babylonians, we have a problem here. The solution is connection. The solution is going above the ego. That was his method, and this is what he was trying to disseminate. But there was an option. The option was actually, what's yours is yours, what's mine is mine. You go on your side, I'll go on mine. Let's separate, let's go our separate ways. And then, of course, that will diffuse the fact that we can't get along, the fact that we cannot connect. We live in a time where we don't have that option. We live in a world where the system is closed, not just in theory, but in practice. The world has become a web of connections, of interdependence, where we're now literally back in Babylon again. And the question is, do we have a choice? Can we separate again? Not this time. This time it is towards connection only. Nature will keep pushing. So I think Abraham must be terribly jealous of us, first of all. I'm sure he'd like to be right here or right there with you, and living in a time where his teachings are going to be realized either by us through our own free will, right? This is why we're here tonight, or rather, by a revelation, by the revelation of blows, and which we don't want. So we're already out there teaching this, and this is Abraham's method. So honestly, we're right there. This is the generation, like Tony said. So I think he's with us anyway. By the way, he's not apart. He's never apart. We're all belonging to one system, and once we are in the system and connected to that system, that piece of Abraham will also be revealed to you, and you will be able to know that for yourself. Thank you for your question.
There's a question here from Sheridan Morden Judd, and he's asking how would an existing marriage work if the partner and the other family members are not taking this course or are not involved in Kabbalah? It depends very much on if you're speaking about yourself, it depends on how you treat your mate and their family. There's no, some of the greatest Kabbalists had spouses that were against their work, but that actually caused them to be the greatest Kabbalists, because what it was that they had to work on was how to find love, meaning bestowal, in every situation, despite this situation. That is, to include it and to use it as fuel to act in a let's say in a godly way, in a giving way in that situation. if you simply work by example and you don't try to sort of press your ideas, you know, and get past the point where you feel the specialness of the path, it is special, but we have to live our lives in a very simple, straightforward. And as far as this work goes, it should be hidden. It should be hidden because that gives us the best opportunity to be like the creator, the force of nature, because that's how it works with us. We don't see the workings of the system, and that's the thing we're trying to reveal. But you can't proclaim it. You have to attain it, and attaining it means being good to your spouse who may see things differently, and everybody around you. And that's not where, you know, it shouldn't prevent anything. And there were some questions in the chat.
So I'm going to ask a question on behalf of Ben, because his internet is slow. How can we reconcile there is none else besides him with the idea that our egoism is so apparently opposite to the quality of bestowal? How are all the parts of the polarity between reception and bestowal contained within the will of the Creator, when the quality of the Creator is only bestowal?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I think that the key word here is polarity. I think by mentioning that word, I think he understands the fact that to create a reality, you need the opposite ends of the spectrum. You need to reveal complete perfection, that it is only him, that there's no one else besides him, and he is the good that does good. Let's say you have to reveal that. And you reveal that on top of something else, or against something else, or opposite something else that has to be equally distant. So by discovering this disconnection and the enormous ego that we have, then thanks to that, and only thanks to that, we move towards this ultimate perfection, that everything was perfect, that nothing was misplaced, and nothing was by chance, and even the most terrible things in our world are necessary for that complete perfection, right? In Kabbalah, we also say that this state of disconnection from there's none else besides him is a very important state, because there's nothing to bribe us here. There's nothing to coerce something from it. So we're detached, and from this point we have freedom. From this point we are, let's say, anchored in a place of disconnection. So that's tremendously important. In the next stage of your spiritual path, you will have two worlds. You'll have this world, complete disconnection, and then you'll have a part of yourself that is already in contact, in resonance, in equivalence with there's none else besides him. Now, if you didn't have this world and the complete polarity and everything that you see, then you would be like floating in the air. You would have nothing to anchor you down. You would have no freedom. You would be manipulated and bribed and coerced and all those things, because you know that's how the pleasure, that's how the light would affect us. So the system is designed in a perfect way, and we are exactly where we need to be. Now, how do we consolidate or explain these things? Only by attainment. We can really talk as much as you want about theory, you know, but the truth is that when you start attaining the roots that are connected to the branches, you start to see that everything does come from one source. Everything is coming from one place.
Yeah, and so and think about this. I don't want to take it too far, but just this question: if there is none else besides him, is that only external to me? Is that only external to your experience, or is it also, does it include you? And how does it include you? And how does it include these resistances and so on? You know, is there a wall between inner and outer, and what belongs to the upper force?
Yeah, that's That's a revelation right there. Where is this? Where is he? Where is he revealed? Where am I and where is he? What is inner and where is outer? And how does he operate on you and on everything around you? How is he taking you to where he wants you to go? And how can you work with him as a partner? These are things that you do in practice, that you practice in a group as we move towards connection. So there's no contradiction. There's no contradiction. There's a process from complete separation to complete adhesion with him, and you are at the beginning of this process, but you're already connected to the right, in the right place for revelation.
Yeah, the contradiction is only in the egoistic perception. It's only within reason, and when in reason in Kabbalah we mean the measurement of things in a linear way, and that's the way that the ego does it. It's value. It evaluates things, but the change in perception of reality, in that when we start moving bit by bit to the quality of the soul, understanding it, then these things are no longer in a polarity. They're working for each other in a system, and you'll see that as you go along.
You see, you ask a really good question, and it takes two of us to answer. So, thank you.
So, I think we're going to move to the next. So we're going to continue to answer questions and so on, but we're going to take a sort of another step here. So the work that you've been doing now in the courses that you've been in, well, there was the fundamental course in which you got principles. These are all everything that you're learning in all of these courses are only there for one reason. The big picture is that the reason that we study is that we're learning a method of how to construct, or rather reconstruct, the broken parts of the soul, the parts that we see as separated. We are reconnecting that single creature back into a really living cognitive place, a real place in which we live. That's called a change in perception of reality. So the first thing you learned were principles. Then you learned about components of the work. That's what you learned in Kabbalah in action. You learned about the group, books, and the teacher. These are forces. We call them these things, but that's not really what they are. They evolve as we go along. And then some of you have been learning a practical method in the Kabbalah experience. That is, what sorts of actions can we attach to this process so that we can begin to feel these things as forces externally and internally. For what purpose? To eventually learn to reconnect ourselves to all of the parts that we've sort of banished from ourselves in this perception. Not from me, not from the I, but from the whole, from the creature itself, what we call Adam Rishon. And then some people in the graduate program are already really working in practical ways. They're beginning to apply this in certain ways. Now, this is taking time. Like it's a big enterprise that is about the truth of life. So, we can't expect it to, even though we like to learn in bite sizes bits, what we're doing is we're learning really the arc of life from the point at which it was created to the point in which we help bring it to fulfillment. So this is a big thing. And what takes us through all of these steps is a thing that we call reshamo, or remembrances. Mm-hmm. These are things aspects that made an impression on us when we moved from our original state of complete wholeness vis-a-vis the Creator, where the light was actually in the creature, but in an unconscious way, to the impression of the shattering, to every single step of how the world's cascaded down from that point as we moved further and further, purposefully, further and further from that state of unity. You know, every single step was impressed on us. Now that's 100, we call it 125 steps down into this world. And now what we're all doing together is we're learning ways of tracing back those breadcrumbs back to the point where one after another. And it takes time, because every time we are presented with one of these remembrances, we have to have a means of feeling it, using the tools that you were given, the books, the group, and the teacher, to order these things for us, and we make this correction. It takes time. You've already spent a lot of time. But what if I told you that there was a way in which you could accelerate, see this whole process in a way where you would like immediately understand what those forces were, what they are, and be able to work with them in a way that is not sort of stretched out like it is right now in a linear way, but which was an intensive pulse of insight, of perception, and of exposure to the cohesive light. Well, there is such a thing. It's something that can accelerate your spiritual growth 100-fold. And what you would accomplish in a year of study, you can accomplish in very few days, because what you would be getting is something akin to a master class, in which instead of trying to connect all of the points in your mind and in your sensations and all of that slowly at the beginning, you have an opportunity to see these forces at work in a real way outside of you and in you. You don't have to put it together. You just have to be there, put yourself into this, and then you can begin to see it. Well, there is such a thing. And it's a Congress, but the reason why it works this way is, let's if you've got that that diagram, let's just put it up there so we can share it. So basically, this is like a mall map. You are here. You see that little dot there? First of all, you had your interest, your feeling. Maybe it was born in you. Your point in the heart, and it brought you. It made you search. You probably searched a lot of different places, and then you began to work here. You found something that worked for you, and nature found you and brought you here. And you're a certain way along this path. You're past all of the introductory stuff. You're starting to now put these things together. But you need to see what really does books mean? What does study mean? What happens here? What happens between us when this happens? Right now, we're not thinking very much of the goal, because we find it hard to imagine what that goal actually is. We don't have an emotional depiction of it. We have an intellectual, sort of egoistic depiction of it. It makes it very hard to understand that study is not like the study that we think of now. We also, we have a sense of teacher. Julian and I are teachers, we're instructors, and we're in the lineage of Abraham and all of that. Our teacher, however, is the one who brought all of that to us, and in his teaching and in his, the way that he understands it, and his grasp, in other words, his attainment, is a kind of provides a kind of screen for us, for me and Julian, and other teachers, and for you as well, to be exposed. It's we're not. What we want to do is to allow you to have that experience too, to get the maximum dosage of light, and to see a true master in how this all works inside of we all gain just from watching how, like how a great artist does it, just is how he lives. So in this environment of a Congress, we have these things there, not just in their name, but in the form of a force that it can be felt viscerally. It can be felt in the terms that we need to feel it all at once, correctly organized. This is the reason that we do these congresses. It's not. It is for no other reason than to bring hundreds and sometimes many thousands of people together to check out again and again what would the state of enlightenment, of correction for, not just for me, but for the entire soul of Adam Harishon. What does it look like at this point for it to be this much joined? Not as an idea, not as an abstraction, but as an actual experience. So between the books, and the hardest thing for us to understand is what group is. This we can explain forever, and you're working bit by bit, getting your feet wet with it. But here in the environment of a Congress, of a convention, there's nothing but that. I won't go too much into that right now because we have some other things that will explain it to you better. But all of this is only to bring you, us, all of us together to the goal, this sort of infinite connection with the light. And all right, so let's stop the screen share. So this is what the opportunity of going to a Congress is about. And we have a gathering like this in New Jersey coming up in May. It's the 3rd of May. And it's for, is it 3 days or 4 days? I should know. It's Thursday. 4 days, yeah, Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Saturday.
Preparation, Sunday morning.
Sunday, yeah. Well,
4 days.
Yeah. And it's an opportunity, as I said, to accelerate your growth by a year. You go the way you are, you come out very, very different. So before we get into the details of the things that happen there and why they do this for us, I'd like to share with you a beautiful video from a Congress last year. And keep in mind that besides this being a beautiful production, what you're seeing here is you're seeing 1,000 people or more in this video. Every single one of them coming to this place only in order to be in the presence of other points in the heart. They are actually sharing a single desire. And they are you can see them in this moment that we're looking at. It's actually just barely a moment. All connected together in a field of connection. So let's take a look at this. That's actually what it feels like, doesn't it? I mean, there's something very special in the connection. And then, you know, what's really beautiful about that video is that because it's really looking at only a few seconds, there's the timeless element that it conveys, which is part of what we're aiming at. To you know, where everything is known, connected, remembered. Then instead of events being mysteriously just evolving out of nowhere, they become a timeless, perfected whole. That's the goal, and that's what the Congress situation allows us to understand and to frame, and we have that sort of experience. We take it out back into the world, and we continue our study, and then we go back and we sort of immerse ourselves into this, and we check our growth this way. But we don't just check it; it advances us incredibly. Between one Congress and another, especially lately, the growth has been enormous. Partially because of, well, whatever, because of times, because of you joining us. Maybe there are some people here who've been to a Congress. If you have, before sort of explain these elements in a Congress, if there anybody who has had this experience, if you want to share that with us, that would be great. If you do, just put up your hand.
Maybe I can share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, friends. So first of all, I just want to say that clip, what it kind of made me feel was the sense that there's no time or space in a Congress. When you go to a Congress, you almost go into like this time warp, where all the sensations, you start to feel them, but you forget where you are, what time it is, what's going on. Everything is about connection, spiritual evolution, and in that space, it's you know, all the things that we learn about feeling this, feeling that, all the theory, all the talks, and all the lessons. It all comes together, and it's a very special feeling. I think that you know, that's probably why we can really relate to this video. My first Congress that I went to, it was interesting. You know, now looking back on it, it's almost like I got this sort of a shock of light, or an addition of light that just amplified my desire. And as soon as I left the Congress, I couldn't, you know, I completely changed. My life was completely different. I knew what I wanted. I knew that I discovered something real. My desire had doubled or tripled. I started reading everything I could on Kabbalah. And it was something that I can't really explain, but essentially my desire just amplified. It just grew tremendously. And that was about 12 years ago. And I'm still here, and still revealing, and honestly, it's an experience that you know, you can experience a lot through this medium, connected, but there's nothing compared to the Congress, to be honest with you.
We call attainment connection. We call it reconnection. It's putting these things, everything that we see back together. Like that question about how do you justify the ego when there's none else besides him. It's the way to see beyond those things through a connection, and it happens very much between people. Let's look at the things that we do. I mean, it may look like a social event, but no, they're forces. So what happens at a Congress? Well, there's lessons, there's workshops, there are gatherings of friends, which is like a sharing thing that happens. There's music. There are free form and sometimes cultural gatherings, so on, you know, where people are performing, or whether maybe it's just free form. And there's meals. Now that sounds like what we do in the world, but we do them very differently in a Congress because we're doing them for a very different reason. So we know about lessons because, you know, you're having a lesson in a sense now. But there's something very different when we are having a lesson with the leading Kabbalist of the generation. When we're working only and directly with Kabbalistic texts. When you see in the room all of those people, men and women, working together towards the same goal, it's not that you're imagining it. You can hear them, you can smell them, you can see them, you can feel them. You feel the energy pulse through the lessons, through the texts that we're working with, and in you. That is, you feel it in the collective. This is it's like this, except we say it's on your flesh. It's a very different thing. There's, you know, the world, it's great today that we can be on other sides of the globe and still able to connect with each other. But for the master class, in order to be able to sort out these things, being in the room with the Kabbalist and with the Kabbalistic students is a revelation in itself. Then there are workshops. Now, the workshops, some of you already know about this. Workshops are when you have a group of people sitting around. It happens in the lesson, working with not just that we're asking the Rav questions, but that he is presenting questions in relation to the text that we're working on and to the goal that we're working towards. And then it's shared in a very special way between, we call it a 10, between a number of people talking with each other. But it's not talking. This is the place in which the love your friend as yourself, the melding of the melting away of internal versus external happens. It is a transformative process. And because it's in a physical place and because it happens over, say these lessons are 3 hours long, very, very, very exciting. But they're made for everybody. I mean, just because you're new, don't get the sense that it's going to go over your head or be too deep for you. That's not the way nature works. It sends water to everybody, and you just use it according to your need. But you'll see that in this process, something practical starts to happen. You understand what you're up against, what it means to connect, what it means not to connect, and it builds in us such a desire for it. And then when you're doing it amongst 1,000 other people, the force is multiplied. So, and then we have a thing called gathering of friends. This is where people share about, well, what's happening with them, or why did they come to do this? What happened when they studied? What's just happening now? Or just sharing their heart. It's not like group therapy. It's a similar form in a certain way, but it is about allowing the light and the inspiration that actually is happening for people to be clearly shared. It's like it breaks down barriers, but in a joyful way. It's really quite beautiful what happens there. And it reveals what's going on inside of us, even when we're listening to a friend. So that type of connection that got built up in the lesson, that got the practical aspects of it that we began to sense as a real tool in the workshops are now starting to apply in another situation where you're sitting there and you're listening, and yet the same sort of thing is happening just out of your heart and feeling for that person, even if you're not in a direct dialogue externally. And then there's music. Well, music is a big part of Kabbalah. Music is what can be expressed without words. And especially in these Kabbalistic melodies, it carries with it light, perception, and connection. It's a very special thing, and it runs even through the lessons. Meals. this is something, a meal is one of the most important, we'll call it like sacred. It's sacred in the sense that it holds in its form, in what it is, the taking of sustenance on behalf of everybody there, like so that you can work together, taking from the same source in a very simple, direct way in which it's felt, where gratitude is felt, pleasure is felt, connection is felt, that it's a wordless kind of a thing that represents the Creator's relationship to us and our relationship to the Creator and our aspiration to be able to feed each other and the upper force. It's the most sacred in that it can be the most perfect image of our work. And then finally, there's these social gatherings that we do at the end of the day where we blow off steam. There might be music, there could be dancing, there could be all of these things. You can dance, or you can be part of it, or you can go to a corner, or you can just talk to friends, or you can have have a beer, or you can get in the middle of the dance, or you can get up and you can, if you know how to rap, and you can do that too.
You know what I've got Gianni actually, who's been quite a few congresses, and he was saying he wanted to jump in and maybe
go.
Yeah, Gianni, go ahead, my friend.
No, I was just inspired to say everything you guys said is beautiful and inspiring, and I heard all of that when I went to my first Congress, but I didn't listen. I studied on my own, and I felt that I knew, everything, and I lived in California, and it was like $1,000 or something really crazy to come, and I wasn't gonna come. And the group in San Francisco felt that I should go, and they did something which was just bought me a ticket and said, you now owe us for this ticket. So I was then obligated to come. And I went, and I'm the least social person ever. I didn't want to come to a Congress with 1,000 people there. But I would just say this, that I felt there that even though on my own I had been studying like 10 hours a day, I was so into this Kabbalah, I felt there that it completely changed my approach to Kabbalah. I felt that I now had the correct approach to Kabbalah, that this experience informed how I studied Kabbalah, how I read books, how I came to the group. Everything was informed by this experience of the Congress. And I felt that, I remember thinking that $1,000, even if it had cost 10 times that much, it was still worth it. It was such a life-changing experience that I would have paid any amount to really have been there. So I just recommend to all of the students, take that leap of faith. If it's at all possible, just do it. It's something that no vacation can be equal to this. Nothing I could spend my money on could be equal. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, it's it's a thing. It's something that has to be organized. It has to be at a place. It has to be at a good place. A comfortable place that can house a lot of people. There's a lot of things that goes into it, and there's just we live in a world where there are physical requirements. I want to say one thing about it. If you want to understand what a perfected world could be like, and how you might actually function in a perfected world, you've got to have an example of it. You have to see a group of people doing it, and you've got to see it organized in a way that it is like a world, that it's like a society, not just like a class. Until, like Gianni said, until we see that a society like this is possible, when you see a lot of people together living in a world with a single purpose, which is the good of everybody, and to line up with nature's design for life, and to reassemble the brokenness in this world. Until you see that such a thing actually exists, you can't know that the goal is really possible. First of all, you can't know what the goal actually is, and you won't believe that it's really possible, except maybe in 1,000 years or something. When you see this, you can see how that can be in the world. You can see an actual society doing this, and it teaches us how to take it into the world. Now, it does. You should go to the site, take a look at what it's all about. There's a special site there where you can see everything, and make the effort to go if you can, to have this experience. And if it's not possible, like even if it's really if it's too much for you in terms of expense and so on, you'll see that there's a thing there called Help Haber, which means help a friend. And because you're new students, and if you're truly in that situation, remember, everything that we do is paying for other people. You pay for that. It makes it possible for other people to go there. So do what you can, and maybe your schedule doesn't allow you, or maybe your money doesn't allow you, but make the effort. If the money doesn't allow you, ask for help. There are arrangements that can be made. And if you've done everything you can, and you need to make that effort first, commit to it first to get the benefit of this light. Try. If it's not possible, well, we're going to arrange it so that everybody will be able to also participate, even virtually. It's not the same thing, but it still is something, and you'll still be able to see everything that's going on, and and participate to the degree that you can. But make the effort first, because I'll tell you this, and Rob has been telling us, lately, this thing. As soon as you hear that there is such a gathering like this, it's going to be a huge leap. Like I said, it's going to be like a year's growth, but you need to be committed to it. So as soon as you know that there's a Congress, you register, whether you can go or not, whether you pay at that moment or not, register, so that now you're part of it. You're in the field of it. You're thinking about it. It's part of your desire. Then things can change. They can work on you.
I just want to add just very quickly that an email has been sent to everyone. Okay, it's the title on the email should be, "You're invited to the 2018 World Kabbalah Convention. Early bird tickets available right now." Okay, so that should be in your inbox. And I'm sure that there's going to be links associated with that email where you can find the website and you can find all the other information. We have a clip, don't we?
No.
We don't have a clip.
We don't have a clip.
Okay.
But if you've got questions about this, concerns, anything.
Clip ready?
Oh. Okay, well, that's cool. I didn't think we were going to do that.
Okay, so, yeah, we do have a clip from Rob. Let's see what he says about Congress.
Dear friends, we're coming close to our Congress in North America, and I really yearn to see you there. Seeing once is worth more than hearing 1,000 times. So you have the opportunity here. In the wisdom of Kabbalah, to see means to unite, to integrate, to get an impression of spirituality, and you can't get that through the communication lines. So I really, really ask of you, don't miss out on this opportunity. This will make you take a leap in spirituality many years ahead. So let us make this effort, and all of you should come. So I really expect to see you there. All the best, and we'll see you there.
Okay, friends, so you're officially invited by Rav. That's awesome. Okay, so we still have quite a bit of time, and we want to make sure that you will get your questions in, the questions about the Congress, any queries that you may have about that, or general questions about the course, about what's going to happen in the future, and anything that you would like. We really want to open it up. If you haven't asked a question yet, don't be shy. This is why we're here. We want your questions, and I'm sure others will benefit also from anything that you have, that you don't know and you want to know. Okay, so go ahead, Johnny, if you want to help us with that.
So I'm very accustomed to your written questions, but I'd love to hear some live questions. But we'll start with Dave. So from the source material, based on your experience, which texts should be read, in what order, to draw the maximum amount of reforming light? This would include Zohar, Shamati, the social writings, etc.
Anything that you do in connection with the study, with others. So I would say, number one, the materials connected with principles that you're learning in KabU and in the progression of lessons. Shamati for sure. That's something you can read on your own at any time. There'll always be something in it that will speak to you, and it will always be about the kind of changes that have to happen in a person that and the challenges that attract reforming light. Zohar is something you need to do with other people. You would wait on that. I mean, you can. I'm not saying don't look at it, but the proper way of working with it won't be that apparent at this point. Social writings, sure. Ticha. Just trying to understand, trying to get your head around what does that mean internally. That will attract an enormous amount of light. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It doesn't matter if you're, don't worry about I don't get it or I think this and I'm probably wrong. Yeah, you're probably wrong. But it's not about that. What's brilliant about the text is that it creates the correct desire in you. It's like it's faking you out. It's making something happen inside that is only pointed at attracting the light. And I think that would be it. Psalms as well. Because this is something you already connected with. Think about how those things are really connected to. They're really speaking about Kabbalah. Psalms are like Shamati. They're just like that. So maybe they're kind of bridge for you.
Nice.
So just a footnote on Tony, that's Petit Hai's preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah, and that's in your Green Kabbalah for the student books. So Jani, I really want to hear from you. We tried, let's try one more time. Jani has a live question for us. Jani, go ahead.
No, there's something wrong with her mic.
Where is she?
She's here.
Yeah, she's actually speaking.
Yeah, she's speaking, but her...
Yeah, we can't hear you, Jenny.
Okay.
No, we can't.
Sorry,
see if you can type it in there. Sorry about that. Type it in the chat.
All right.
Let's go to another one.
We actually have a question on the topic of that book Tony mentioned, Preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah. It's from Lawrence. Can the Sfirot not be considered different levels of ego development?
I would say yes, and that's how we measure the relationship between the desire to receive and the light. So we talk about 125 degrees, we talk about Parsuf and Sefirot and Olamot, and all these are measurements. They're relationships between desires, corrected desires, maybe desires that are not corrected yet, the light in the vessel. So that's all it is about. A Sefirot is a desire that is now corrected, that is able to adhere to the Creator. It's an equivalence, therefore it shines. Sefirot means to reflect, to reflect light. So that's a good way of looking at it. That's a very good way of looking at it. You can also use this Parsuf and Sefirot as building blocks. When you're studying the structure of creation, it's also we use Parsuf more than Sefirot, but you can also use that as a measurement, because it's a process, right? It's from above down. So that's what we're learning in Pticha, and but the best way of understanding it is that it is a process of correction that you're going through.
Okay, so we have a Congress-related question. Wallace is asking, do you ever have a convention down south? Are we going to have any conventions down south? Is this the only one?
How far down is the question?
South Jersey. We have in the past. No, the farthest south we got
was it St. Louis?
Yeah, that's sort of middle.
Yeah.
Mexico. Is that south?
Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, lately we've been having it in the same place just because it's they're getting bigger and bigger, and it's easier to do the logistics when you're really aware of the place and you're having a lot of people and a lot of things happening there. We have them all over the world, though. It's not the only one. They happen regularly, and they happen every 2 months. But they happen internationally. They happen in Eastern Europe. They happen in Western Europe. They happen in South America and Central America. Everywhere. Germany. So and some people make it a practice to travel to all of those places. Some wealthy people, I guess, but even some without, who value them so highly that they chase them wherever they are. We even have one that happens in the desert, and that's a very special one. It happens in a huge tent in the desert. But they do happen regularly. The one in North America, we usually only have one in North America per year, just so that all of our North American students can have the experience if they can't travel to Israel or wherever.
Yeah, just wanted to add. Yeah, we have congresses really all over the world. Quite a few in Europe, even all the way down to South America, Chile, Brazil. We've had a few. So they are. I don't think we've gotten to Australia yet, have we? We haven't gotten to Australia yet, but that apparently is also an objective. So the Congress that we're doing and that we're talking about right now is the North American Congress, which is going to be happening in New Jersey, and that really is the Congress for the students of KabU, which is it's really kind of directed towards North America. However, we have students here from Europe, and we have students from Australia, and we have students from all over the place. So the question is, how can you connect to the event that's happening here in North America? And that I think that we should send out maybe a list of mirror congresses, perhaps, or some options so that we're all together, maybe watching it together. How do you students that are virtual that can't come? And that's something that we are aware of. We're discussing it.
Yeah, and if you're joining us from Europe, I mean, you're invited too. It is a KabU. It's designed to work for people who are going through the KabU process, as well as for some veteran students as well. But so if you can, come.
Yeah, you're going to be there, right?
I'll be there. You're going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there. See you there. So, okay. Any more questions?
Sheridan is asking about our next steps. How do we make a group while taking the online class? How do we make a group while taking the online class?
So the formation of a group, it's there isn't like a sort of recipe that we're going to say, we're going to do this, that, the other, and it's going to happen, miracle, wow, that's it. It happens in a very sort of gradual way. It's very organic. Obviously, you need to have folks that are close to you, in the same geographical location, in the general vicinity, or else that's the first thing, right? Because you need two. That's the beginning of a group, two folks. Second, to build a Kabbalistic group in a proper way, for it to be successful, it needs guidance, it needs attention, it needs care. And that care, it should come from someone who has experience. So your connection to us, or to KabU, and to other students that are in groups and that can help you in that process, that is absolutely essential, by the way. Just creating a group from your own mind that you think that this is going to work, that is...
Yeah, that's a formula for it not working. Because the process is not like putting a group of people together for, like for basketball or anything else that we do in this world. It's maintaining that correct core aim is the most difficult thing in the formation of a group. But by the way, if you stay, you're going to be, there's a process called Young Group here, in which you're going to actually learn. You'll become part of a group, and you'll learn what group formation is about, what's important in it, how to do it, and so. And once you have that experience, then you would be able to set up something like that in your area if you had enough people to work with there. Or you'd find ways of associating with existing physical groups. And by the way, not just Julian and I are going to be at the Congress. All of the teachers from KabU are going to be there. The ones from Israel, the ones from North America, all of them.
I'm not authorized to say this, but I just want to say, everything that you need to do in Kabbalah, as far as your advancement, we have the infrastructure to do online. And we do have a question that I wanted to ask about this, but I just wanted to say that a convention is the one thing that you kind of have to do in person. You kind of have to be there. It's a special process. It's guided by our teacher, Rav Laitman, with a huge mass of people who are as inspired about this goal as you are. And it's just an experience that's indescribable. No matter how many words I'll say to sell it and so on and convince you, nothing will describe the experience that you'll have there. But I do have a question regarding our virtual experience, which is going to continue. And Kafel Wallace is asking, where do we go after Kabbalah in action? Where do we go after?
Yeah, thank you. So after Kabbalah in action, you have Kabbalah experience. Okay, this is the next course. It's not a separate course. It's a continuation. It's fundamental. You have to continue with that course. And then after that, you're going to be moving into a virtual environment. And that virtual environment is basically going to give you the impetus to then start building something more physical. I also want to add, just real quick before I forget, is that a lot of physical groups are actually built by friends coming from their various respective places around the world and locations, and arriving at the Congress thinking that they're the only student from, I don't know, New Orleans or, I don't know, Mississippi, or it really doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden, they're able to then connect them, they meet, and all these groups start to take shape because the Congress is a meeting place, all right? So that's another important reason, you know, and a benefit of coming to congresses. We meet a lot of students, and we build physical groups there. But the idea is that you're going to be taken care of, that you have everything, like Johnny said, the infrastructure, the teaching, all the support that you need, virtually. And the virtual environment is not something to be laughed at and to be sort of disrespect in any way. Just working virtually nowadays in this group is very powerful. It's very, very powerful. You learn a lot about working in virtual groups, and we have a lot of friends that have been doing this for for a long time, and you grow. So if you think that because you don't have a physical group, you're not advancing, you're not growing, then please don't believe that for a second. It's not true. This is a real community that we have here. You will grow, and miracles happen. Things change. People will pop up in your area, and this is an organism. I see Kabbalah as an organism that keeps growing, and before you know it, you will be doing the physical work as well. Okay.
Does anybody have anything that they feel that they want to share about the study, what they've experienced, or anything that you might want to share with the other friends here? Say, Aviva.
I know that Cynthia wanted to share something. Cynthia, did you want to share live?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I wanted to share that in the first group interaction that was virtual like this, I asked a question, and Tony was the one that answered it. And it was really interesting because when he answered the question, it felt almost as if there was this tunnel of light that went directly between him and me. And it was so almost strange because it felt like he was right in front of me asking me the question. There was this connection that was completely real in the moment, as if I was there. And I wanted to share that because even though we are virtual, it comes through, and I don't know why, I don't know how, but it was something that was so noticeable that it directly got my attention.
Yeah, this stuff here, what we're seeing here is just a prosthesis. It's just like, we think we need this sort of seeing and hearing aid, but it's just something that allows us to experience the absoluteness of our connection with each other.
Yeah, we've had similar sort of opportunities in the workshops where the friends were basically stating very similar things, that they were very much surprised by the amount of connection, the light, and all sorts of sensations that they didn't expect to happen in this virtual environment. But it's really above time and space, friends. It's above time and space.
And dependent on your commitment and desire. That's what opened, for you. Anybody else?
Aviva, I think, wanted to share. Aviva?
Oh, yes. I joined the studies of Kabbalah about a year ago, and it had such a huge impression on me. Like impression in the most physical way, that you press something and it's impressed on me, in the most fundamental, in the most positive way. And it keeps growing and growing. My husband, Alex, that is also here, he's studying with us. And in May, we're going to the Congress together, and we are in the graduate program. We both have 10s, and most of my 10 is coming to the Congress. So we're going to meet physically for the first time. And I have so much love. I have so much love for everybody. Not that I didn't have love before, love, nice love, but this is love towards a goal. This is love towards generating it towards the whole world. And I'm so grateful that I am here, and I'm so grateful that you're all here with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aviva. That's amazing.
Julian and I are in the same 10. So we're like one guy with two heads. Thank you, friends. This is good. It was wonderful to be with you, to see you, to hear you and feel you, your sincerity. It's very warming. And that's the end of our event for tonight, but we are going to remain together according to what you want, and let's continue. Let's keep searching, let's keep growing, let's keep listening, and looking for how we can connect to each other, how we can help each other in the world. This is how we do it.
Yeah, I just want to say how marvelous these meetings are. I'm truly inspired by you friends every time we meet. It doesn't matter what course you're on. It really doesn't matter how much you know. We're all equal here, and we're all adding to this connection. So tonight has been wonderful, and we're really looking forward to seeing you all at the Congress, all connected somehow. But please, let's keep going, and we have a very bright future together. So thank you, friends. Good night.
Broke apart, we come to connect the hearts, turning dark into light. Arm in arm we stand,